Of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 21st day of September 2023. Please rise. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Schneiderman.
I'm here.
Councilwoman McNamara. Here. Councilman Martell.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Steve-O.
I am present. Good morning.
One day we all will say the same
I
thing.
say present as well.
Once you did?
I did.
How was that?
There was one time.
Okay, so here,
It's like hurting
Don't kid.
cats.
Don't kid.
here.
All right, so,
The agenda says present.
all right, we're gonna start out today. We got a couple things on, but primarily draft agenda review. So we have a meeting scheduled for September 26th. That's next Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's an evening meeting here and also remotely. And let's see, we have 4 public hearings. First one, to consider enforcement action at 56 Cypress Avenue, Flanders. Second one at 11 Flanders Road in Riverside. Third one at 229 Flanders Road in Riverside. Those are all enforcement actions. And then the last one, public hearing for community solar installation at North Sea Landfill, 1370 Majors Path in North Sea. Anybody have any questions about those?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll just quickly read through the resolution. So we'll start with yours, Tommy John.
Town Board Resolution 1005 of 2023. This is kind of a companion legislation to the hazardous accumulations. That is a resolution of adopting amending Chapter 164-6.5 penalties to increase penalty for 164-6.4 hazardous accumulations.
Tommy John, I don't know that I've seen the changes yet.
It's
So
in here.
it's,
Is it all in here?
if I could?
Yeah.
So the next resolution, which is 1004 of 2023, which is the kind of like out of order, that is a resolution that I had originally put on in July. And this one is, I'm going to withdraw on the floor completely.
104.
Right.
1004.
Yeah. And then deeper into the packet is
Page 41.
page 41, wow,
What-
is 44173. And
So
I don't know
is,
if you want to take them
are
in
you,
order
are
and
you
discuss
also
it now.
withdrawing 1005?
No, no. That is,
That's just increasing the penalty, okay.
right.
But 1004 you're withdrawing, and then,
Correct, and it's going to be replaced with ID number 44173, and it references the same public hearing, and essentially the changes in the, do you want to discuss it now, or you want to keep it in order?
no, you can go ahead. What page is it?
It is page 41. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas the original resolution referenced, referenced that it would be determined by authorized staff from the Department of Public Safety, we went ahead and gave further definition of what authorized staff means, which is determined by a qualified hazardous materials team, operation, certified law, certified law enforcement officer when such materials presents an articulable risk of public safety, and it also triggers after a hazmat incident had been called. So those are essentially the differences, and
Such material presents an articulable risk. You can explain, I mean, I know what to articulate is, so it has to be clearly spelled out, I guess. What do you mean by that?
67 containers of, you know, when the code is written, they have to be able to identify the hazardous materials that are present.
Okay.
And it relates earlier in articulable increased risk of fire, combustion, explosion, or other life-threatening events. And so it's not nebulous. They have to be able to quantify and articulate what the issue is.
Okay, and Ryan was okay with all this, right?
He was.
And Sean?
He was.
Okay. All right.
So this one, right, okay.
All right, so why don't we then go back then to, anybody have any questions about the newer approach? Okay, everybody good with it? All right, then we did 104, correct? We read it, you're gonna withdraw that, so I guess I'm next. 1025, authorize the supervisor to sign a lease with trustees for office space at 240 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays, New York. This is what we had tabled. I mean, you guys can authorize me to sign a lease, I just don't know that we need a lease unless there's a tax line. If there's a tax line, then we need a lease. If not, the trustees are functioning in the same capacity they have for, the recent past. I don't have, the town doesn't have a lease with the trustees now to occupy the space that they're in. Nor does the highway department, nor does the controller's office, nor does planning. Nobody has, or clerk's office, somebody has a lease to use the space they're in. The town board assigns space based on what makes sense to the town board. I mean, we could just sort of continue to table this, I guess, and wait to see if the governor signs the resolution that was passed by the Senate and the Assembly to give us the extension to sort out the details related to that tax line. Any comment?
Well, if the space was provided for them and retroed for them, potentially they could occupy the space under the same conditions they occupy space in town hall right now.
Yeah, so let me try to even be more clear. So the lease protects the trustees and it protects the town, right? So under the lease, we can't just say, you gotta move. We need this space for other purposes. We have to give them notice, there's all kinds of things. Whereas that is not typical of a town department. If we need to move somebody, we move somebody. So it really, because there is a rent being paid, so the trustees collect money on their line, their tax line, and then pay us rent, which covers some of our debt service, it covers some of our maintenance, covers some of the other associated fees with that building. That's all related to the trustee tax line. So unless there's a trustee tax line, it doesn't really make sense to enter into a lease. It's not necessarily in the town's
No, I'm not
interest.
suggesting that.
Yeah, so no, I just want to try to clarify, like, my thinking here. It's probably good to have the resolution pending,
Just table it.
just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case. But if we don't have a tax line this year, it seems to me we shouldn't enter into a lease. Now, what happens if we say to the trustees, we have this space, we spent an awful lot of money creating the space that you wanted, west of the canal, more accessible to most of our population, easier to get to for your workforce, significantly larger than the space you're in now. If they say, "Oh, we don't want to move," I don't know what our recourse is. Typically, if I said to the clerk's office, "We're moving you," I might get a protest. I might get a protest. People,
Depending on where you're moving me. If it's
Right.
west, I might
You might,
go
yeah.
say, thank you.
Exactly, but ultimately, I'm not sure you get to decide. Of course, you're very influential, and unlikely to go against your wishes. But I think ultimately, it's the town board reserves the right to place its workforce where we deem, best suited. So, we did it with housing offices already there. And I think the future, with the traffic and our, challenges recruiting personnel, it's likely we're going to see more governmental services move west of the canal. It means we're moving people into other spaces. At some point, we'll probably have a new justice court as well. People will move.
We'll have a community center in West Hampton.
We'll have a community center in
Might
West
as well.
Hampton. So, yeah, I don't want to set a precedent where town employees get to say, no, we're not going there. I think that would be, not advantageous to the operations of the town. So, anyway, enough said. I think I'll just table it.
I wouldn't want the public to think that the tax line issue was just focused on a lease agreement. There were a number of other issues that the town and the trustees were in negotiations with, including workers' collective bargaining and other agreements that we have with the town that we were attempting to articulate. There's that word again. And, but with the trustees, so moving forward, we know the clear relationship between the town of Southampton and the trustees, freeholders of the town of Southampton. And, it's a lease, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And so,
No, that's the issue with the MOA to which
Yeah.
you're referring to,
Right.
which I think is essential, that it's part and parcel to that tax line, that you cannot create this tax line and hand over 1.6 million, whatever it might be, in public money without a very clear understanding of the roles and responsibilities of two bodies and how they interact. You're sort of giving the trustees independence in many ways, but but we have to understand sort of the basic ways the two bodies will operate with that independence.
right, and there were challenges there. A collective bargaining unit can only deal with the municipality, for example. We're the municipality, other things.
Well,
So-
if we're assigning employees, how those
Bonding is
employees,
huge, yeah.
how those employees are disciplined, hired, fired, things like that, those are important questions.
I mean,
Yeah.
I said it when we had the initial work session on the tax line. I think the MOA is actually more important than the tax line because, yes, we can't defund you at that point, but the town could collectively say, we're not giving you any of our employees. And if you don't have the ability to do collective bargaining and you can't have employees, what's the point of having money for those employees if you can't get them?
Right.
So
Well,
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and the intent of the tax line, at least from the sponsor's perspective, as I understand it, is pretty simple.
Yeah.
It was to present a budget that was to be captured for the trustees to have a tax line in order to collect that revenue to meet that budget. Simple, and it's become more than that for, I think we all agree, for obviously important reasons, but I would suggest, Supervisor, that you table this and we keep it there and because we still have some events to have happen before that can really guide us.
Yeah.
And I brought that up because I didn't want the public or anybody to think it was just about a lease in Hampton,
No.
for one
I mean, look,
of the trustees.
the problem with withdrawing it with the other option is if for some reason the governor doesn't sign, which I'm not anticipating, but if that happened, then we need this resolution. And we'll need to figure out quite a few things regarding the budget. But I don't know how we execute a tax line without the MOA. Personally, I don't know how we do that. So I'm hopeful that the governor will sign, and, that the future board will continue to work in good faith to, meet the objectives. All right, so 44247, authorized change order for Round Pond Stormwater Improvement with Delalio Coal and Stone Company, Inc. 44273, authorized change order for the mechanical portion of the Southampton Volunteer Ambulance Facility with Intricate Tech Solutions. 44299, authorized purchase of bathroom repairs and police department with Macaron Plumbing, Inc., using Suffolk County contract.
44298, authorized purchases from Suffolk County contract with Moreland Hose and Belting Corp. for industrial hoses and fittings.
44195, authorized supervisor to sign a contract with Viroscience Consultants, Inc., to provide asbestos project monitoring at 1194 Flanders Road, Flanders.
44234, authorize supervisor to sign a contract with LK McLean Associates, P.C., for engineering, design, and permitting services at Bay Avenue East, Hampton Bays. 44248, authorize supervisor to sign a contract with LK McLean Associates, P.C., for engineering, design, and permitting services for shoreline stabilization at North Sea Road in Southampton.
44272, authorize supervisor to sign a contract with State University of New York at Stony Brook School of Health Professions for a one-day mini health fair at Southampton Senior Services, Hampton Bays Senior Center.
44286, authorize the supervisor to sign a reassignment agreement from PrimeGov to Granitius LLC.
Granicus, what are they doing? What is Granicus doing for us?
It's my office, actually. It's the town board agenda process.
Okay.
We're transitioning, and it turns out that the company we went with was then bought out by the other company. So now we're just kind of
Formalizing it.
formalizing that. We're reassigning it because now they're the same company.
Got it.
Yeah,
All right.
something like that.
44244, authorize supervisor to sign an amended contract with LK McLean, engineers, surveyors for sanitary system removal and replacement design services.
Town board resolution, I'm sorry. what are
No,
you-
that's okay, just looking at where that is. So water, it must be the hot dog beach.
Town
Oh, the
hall.
town hall, oh, for
This
town
is for
hall.
us to
Oh, to switch
finally get
over.
over the,
We're going on
actually,
an
I'd like
IA
to
system.
co-sponsor that Sunday, thank you.
Okay, so we're on 44224.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Town Board Resolution ID 44251, authorize the purchase from Deal Concrete Corporation for ADA improvements at Ludlam Avenue, Parkside, and Riverside, I'm sorry.
John, if I could, I'd like to co-sponsor that.
Sure.
It's like DL.
Deal, I know, I was like a deal, it's not a deal. Well, it may be a deal.
It's a capital A?
Yeah, it's Deal.
Or Delau or DL.
Deal.
They're actually, by the way, for those of you guys who were at the
that's
Elliston
throughout
Park ribbon
the
cutting,
entire-
they did the stonework there.
That was beautiful.
And they're also the ones who assembled the heart outside. They do good work.
Tesselators.
All right, so you had,
Yeah,
That's the only one, yeah.
the resolved is right? Yeah, DL.
Yeah, it caught me off guard.
So anyway, so we read that one. 44220, authorize the supervisor to amend resolution 2023-54, a professional services agreement with Leonard J. Marchese, CPA. 44276, authorize supervisor to execute an extended agreement with the CCE, Cornell Cooperative Extension, for Suffolk County to partner with the town for passive permeable reactive barriers at Riverside Maritime Park. I know that's where this thing has jumped around from Iron Point to this park. I'm not yet convinced that these PRBs are doing their job.
That's why they're testing it.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, I just don't know how much energy we're gonna put into PRBs. But I guess this one is already laid out.
Yeah,
I don't think it's it was like a grant, I think, that's going toward this.
correct.
I think it originally started out, it was county money, I think, originally.
Yeah,
being
and it was in the
tracked down.
wrong place. They had some issues, technical issues.
It's jumped around. Originally, it was gonna be these storm drains on some of those roads. It was a county water, it was a special fund that was reserved for Southampton that was being used. I'm pretty sure this is that same source of original funding, and they haven't been able to land it in a project, but hopefully this will turn out to be a good use of the money. 44296, authorize the supervisor to sign 2023 extended agreement with the National Coalition Building Institute in exchange for professional services to create an employee survey and to conduct diversity training.
Town Board Resolution ID 44222, authorize the supervisor to sign an amended agreement of awards of Community Preservation Fund, CPF, 20% water quality improvement project funds for Susan's Illusion LLC, Armin and Judy.
Town Board Resolution ID 44136, authorize the supervisor to sign the 2023 East Quogue Fire Department Inc. Hamlet Services Grant.
Town Board Resolution ID 44238, authorize the transfer of properties to the Town of Southampton Housing Authority and Habitat for Humanity for the development of affordable housing.
So these are what, 72H properties?
Some are, yes.
Kara has mentioned this to me. Yeah. I was recently there, as you guys know, with the wall raising on, I think it was on Vale.
Well, the further process, and Councilman Scavone and I both testified at the legislature, was we previously had no access, not really, to the list of 72H properties. And that still continues to be a problem, but this is part of that initiative and I think this will go a long way to show that that's a good way and a good process to have coming out of the legislature to allow municipalities to have
So you were-
access to those auction lists.
So I talked to Kara, because Curtis had told me also that there were these two lots that were 72H, the town owned, and we hadn't transferred to them.
Right.
And they wanted to replicate the model that's been successful in building like 4 or 5 homes in that neighborhood. They're beautiful homes.
We've acquired this in 2000, these two properties in 2006.
Right, so we've been
So-
sitting on them for how many years?
17.
There you go.
Well, I don't know if it's been
17
sitting
years.
on them. We're trying to find the right combination of partners to make that happen. And Habitat for Humanity has jumped in, and it's working well.
So I actually remember when I was at the legislature of the county, these 72H transfers that were made, every once in a while, they would come back to the county to reverse the transfer, because there was a reverter in it that said if you do not build the housing by a certain date, they go back to the county. And so I think a couple times I reached out to the town and said, what are you doing? What are you doing with these lots? And they would say, we need more time, and I would be able to get that extension. And Bridget's probably gotten some extensions on these as well. But I'm glad that we're finally moving forward. Somebody will get a beautiful home to live in, so.
I hope the county also gives the town a more advantageous ability to acquire 72H houses that we can actually put houses on.
Yeah.
Not the piece of property
Would help.
that's in the shape of a thin pizza slice next to a sump or something like that, but something that we can actually, put a house on and get people living there in the town of Southampton.
So the next one in 44226, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract with Tesla Electric Vehicles. I know we've discussed this in the past, so people question why Tesla, but I guess they are providing something that meets all of our specs.
It was the lowest bidder.
They're the
Lowest bidder, and also,
This went out to bid.
yeah, well, there's some other reason. We don't have to go into it now.
I'm just saying, I opened it, that's what I'm saying.
There were a total of 2 bids, but they were the lowest. All right, John, you got next one?
Town Board Resolution ID 44233, award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract for a heavy haul tractor with Trucks Incorporated, doing business as Long Island Freightliner.
Yay.
Finally.
44249, recall and amend resolution 2023-344, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract with Passport Labs, Inc. to furnish and install integrated parking management.
Town Board
we're all on
Resolution
that.
ID 44241, resolution to establish
I
a
don't need co-sponsors when we do that.
No, I just wanted to be sure,
Yeah.
because,
I'm sorry, Tim.
yeah, it's
That's
a big,
okay. I'm sorry.
sorry. We were just talking about this parking thing was important, and the whole board was supporting it, and I just wanted to reiterate that.
Okay. Town Board Resolution ID 44241, resolution to establish a restricted account and to accept the bequest of Gisela Jean Bernhard on behalf of the Town of Southampton Senior Center. So Ms. Bernhard recently passed away, and under the terms of her trust, she left the balance of her estate to the Town of Southampton Senior Center to benefit the members who need transportation to senior center activities and medical appointments. And it's my understanding that it is a quite sizable sum. So I'd like to thank.
Wow, that's
Wow.
quite generous.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Wow. It'd be nice to do something to honor her,
Mm-hmm.
maybe at the senior center. Something we could think about, whether
I'll work with Laura on that.
naming the library or something, I don't know. Let's find out what, I'd like to know how much was donated. It's very kind.
ID number 44300, the 2023 notice to bidders for Sierra 1500 four-wheel drive crew elevation. ID number 44250, the 2023 notice to bidders for V-Box sand and salt spreader.
44301 accepts award and authorizes supervisor to execute a contract with New York DHSES as administrator for Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. So that's Homeland Security, right?
Yeah.
The DHSES. Okay, 44293 accepts money from Governor's Traffic Safety Committee to participate in the statewide Child Passenger Safety Program.
Town Board Resolution ID 44295, accept monies from the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for the Town of Southampton Police Department's Traffic Safety Services Program.
Have you added as a co-sponsor on that, Cindy?
Yep.
You got that, Sunny?
I do.
44227 amends 2023 budget for various departments. 44231 amends 23 to 27 capital budget and adds capital program Dune Road elevation report. We're working our way toward lifting up that portion of Dune Road from the bridge to the inlet, which is really important. And, in the recent storm, it was really very evident. We've known we lifted the other section, which we could lift more, but that one section we never lifted, and, it got pretty heavily flooded recently. So 44242, authorized closure of capital projects. 44210, authorize the town to reimburse NYMER, New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, the deductible for bodily injury and property damage claims. And Cindy, you're next.
The next three are resolutions authorizing the enforcement actions we have a public hearing for. Normally, we don't put these on until 2 weeks after the public hearing, but I felt that in the interest of public safety, because if these are about it, we put them on, we can always table them if something happens, or we can withdraw them. Town Board Resolution ID 44236, resolution authorizing enforcement action at 56 Cypress Avenue, Flanders, New York. Town Board Resolution ID 44232, resolution authorizing enforcement action at 11 Flanders Road, Riverside. Town Board Resolution ID 44235, resolution authorizing enforcement action at 229 Flanders Road, Riverside.
44173, resolution of adopting amending Chapter 164-4, hazardous accumulations to enhance enforcement ability. We discussed this earlier.
Excellent. 44240, acknowledge transfer of development rights and authorize supervisor to execute covenant and restriction as it relates to said transfer. This is Blair Gaza. All right.
Good. 44225, authorized waiver of Parks and Recreation facility use fee for the Hampton Bays Lions Club, 12th annual Over the Bridge 10K run and 5K run walk on September 16, 2023. And actually, because of the flooding, it only became a 5K.
Interesting. John? 44187 on page
Oh, I'm
46.
sorry. Town Board Resolution ID 44187, authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the Hampton Bays Union Free School District Homecoming Parade on October 14th, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Town Board Resolution 44105, authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the East Quogue Fire Department Holiday on Main event on December 2nd, 2023, from 2 p.m. to 7
I'd like to be added to that.
p.m.
Certainly.
I'll go on too. Rick, you might as well go on too.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Okay, yes, please.
Just
both
put
wanna be
everybody
added as
out.
well.
Whole
The-
board, please.
Put the East Quogue Holiday on Main, co-sponsored by all of us. 44274 accepts retirement of police officer Robert Arnzen from Southampton Town Police. 44164 accepts resignation of Thomas McKenna, Records Management Assistant and Town Clerk. 44179 appoints Anka Palagita to driver messenger position in Controller's Office. 43334 appoints Seamus Conlon to Senior Office Assistant position in Engineering. 43881 appoints Craig Carroll to Maintenance Mechanic 1 position in Municipal Works. 44275 appoints Robert McConnell to Custodian Work 1 position in Municipal Works. 44294 appoints Felicia Schneider to Assessment Aide position in Assessor's Office. 43638 appoints Kevin McCarroll to Audiovisual Production Specialist position in Public Information and Communication. Is that CRC? Or is that
That's
CTV?
CTV.
Okay, okay, got it. 44278, authorize hiring of Griffin Rosen, police officer start. 44277 appoints police officer academy.
Sending Lucas.
What does that mean? We're picking somebody, but
There's a name below.
you have to complete the academy, but is there an individual?
Yes, Lucas Sedor.
Yeah, it's written underneath.
Oh, yeah, Lucas Sudor. Got it, all right. 40761 appoints Tyler Wist to account trainee position in Finance Department.
Town Board Resolution ID 44281, notice of public hearing to consider enactment of Town Code Section 67-A entitled Traffic Violation Bureau Enforcement of Civil Violation of New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, VTL, Chapter 1174-A, hearing before Administrative Law Judge.
Bus patrol.
Plus, yeah, they get to appeal.
Let's say that again?
I'm sorry, I have a note here that the hearing date needs to be corrected, but it looks like she's already corrected it, because the hearing is going to be on Tuesday? Is it a Tuesday meeting for September 26th?
So wait a second, so this is now,
There's a notice of public hearing for Tuesday when we're adopting it.
so this,
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll have to check with Kim, but she put a note that hearing date needs to be
so
corrected.
this would create a vehicle and traffic law division within the Southampton Justice Court? Is that right, Jim? And who
Yes.
would be the administrative law judge? We would assign somebody?
Yes, we would have to.
Appoint somebody?
Appoint somebody, yeah. Yeah, we're
And
looking
then-
into some of the individuals who do that position already in the Suffolk County
So this is for
Traffic
those
Violations
people,
Bureaus in Hopop. So,
Now, this only applies to the school bus camera?
Yes. Yep, it's the only thing that we have. You know, as you know, the western towns have the red light camera process, and people get these video camera tickets for red light turns on right, left, you know, red light violations of all kinds. And they're returnable at the Suffolk County Traffic Violations Bureau. The 5 East End towns do not have that. So all the 5 East End towns have been kind of struggling with what to do with these bus patrol tickets, because they're the same concept, you know.
Right, if
It's
somebody,
really
if
kind of
somebody
seamless.
pleads not guilty, there's,
There's no
Right.
mechanism for that.
There's really no mechanism. Most of the towns have been, the East End towns have been struggling with it. In the western towns, they
Are
just
we
were
going to-
simply returnable to DVB,
It's
just like
supposed
every
to be-
other,
yeah, I
you
thought
know,
it was
traffic
supposed to be
light,
reserved.
you know, camera violations, you know.
can we hear the appeals of other, like, villages and towns in our?
Yeah, I believe we could try to work out some sort of IMA, you know, to do that. I
So-
think we've been
So
showing
if somebody
it-
in South Hall, because I don't know if they're gonna wanna set up their own.
Right, we could consider, and we've been talking with the folks from Bus Patrol and also with the administrative judge, with, you know, Judge Krecker and Judge Cohalan about setting up something where we may end up considering, end up hearing all the violations on the East End towns, you know.
And could this mechanism, if there are, you know, end up being like automated speeding cameras or other automated ticketing, a place, this will be the mechanism where they go to?
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about like parking tickets, but that, or we do adjudicate those, right? Because we're automating a lot of that.
Yeah, that hasn't kicked in yet, though.
Yeah.
So I think it's good in anticipation of that to include that in there, as well as this, I think this gives the county the right to put cameras, light cameras, and traffic lights into the town without our notification. our
No, no,
understanding.
no.
So it has, so this would be able to prevent that sort of thing if you did this
Yeah.
town at the
This
whole
is
East End.
strictly right now for the Bus Patrol.
Yeah,
So the red light cameras,
because I
now.
could see it, you know.
I mean,
the red light cameras are authorized. They could be out here. They have to be on
County,
county
right.
road intersections with, I think, maybe state road intersections. They can't just be anywhere. And I think we do have places where that we have traffic lights at county and state roads.
But you didn't see a date.
And it could be, you know, a source of revenue. It's mostly to, well, at least it's argued that the red light cameras are supposed to prevent people from running red lights, supposed to be safer because those type of, you know, head-on collisions or, you know, higher, you know, it's not I guess it's head-on, but cars coming through the green light, it gets hit by the car going through the red light, can be very lethal.
Is it possible for our justices to hear these cases?
It is.
it's possible.
Then
You know, I think there's been,
why not have our justices hear these cases and not do this?
No, I think we
What's
We
the
need this for
advantage?
them to hear them.
We need the
this
framework.
is
well,
the
we,
way to
yeah,
get
and
it
it's
in
not,
front of
you
them.
know, these are, there's been concern about whether justices should be handling these kind of cases. These are, you know, there's no real opportunity for cross-examination, and they're, you know, these are just camera violations, and they're not, you know, they're to the vehicle, you know, not to a person, just like the red light cameras are, so. So there are concerns, and it's been concerns raised by the judges whether they should be handling these cases, and I kind of agree, I understand their concerns, whether, you know, there's proper due process in these proceedings. As I said, the county does not, the red light cameras, this is akin to a red light camera type violation.
Yeah.
They're not returnable in district court where you have a prosecutor and you have cross-examinations, that's, so.
Yeah,
they-
you go to
they
the
handle it in
Traffic
TVB.
Violations Bureau, and it's pretty much write a check.
Right, well, yeah, yeah.
So
And
this
it's not a
is-
small check
You-
either. and
it's you
I'm
against the
concerned
video,
about
But
camera,
this is
essentially.
creating a basically traffic violations bureau in the town of Southampton. That's what this is.
For now, just,
I mean, I don't even know what the statistics are. I've heard anecdotally that most people plead guilty because it's pretty hard
It's
not
very
to,
apparent that it was you.
that it was you, right?
There's
So
multiple
This is more of an
angles.
administrative.
There's video.
Right. It's more about the fairness, what people oppose. I mean, sometimes because actually the way the law is written, although it's not enforced, you could actually get a ticket for one of these things on a divided highway. Like, let's say, take William Floyd Highway, you could be traveling southbound on the William Floyd, the bus could be stopped on the northbound, and if you don't stop, which is, it's
Dangerous to stop.
Yeah, right, of course. And we have areas around this town that are kind of dangerous to stop, right? I mean,
Well, County Road 39.
yeah, right,
It's-
County Road 39 is one of them, you know?
Um,
And so it's.
Yeah, and it's easy to not see that small school bus stop.
Right, if it's pulled over way to the right,
Way over.
on the westbound lane and you're traveling east, then, right, to stop there, you're endangering yourself and others, so those are the kind of issues that,
So I did get from the town attorney's office that the correction to the resolution is the hearing date needs to be changed to October 10th.
On this one?
Yes.
At 1 PM.
So it's two places. I'll change it in the first resolve and also in the notice of public hearing
October 10th at 1 PM?
at 1 PM.
All right, so, yeah, we don't have to, it's internals, because this is a draft, so we don't have to do an amendment. All right, so, but we'll just change that in the published agenda. All right, we'll move on to the next one, John.
Town Board Resolution ID 44229, notice of public hearing for proposed recipients of the 2024 Community Development Block Grant Programs.
Does it list who they are? Not in this?
It was in the list that was provided last time, needed an amendment, as I understand it, so in order to do that, we have to go through a
The two
public hearing for
churches
the
that
two
couldn't
extra
accept, yeah.
ones that were gonna be added.
All right, 44291, notice of public hearing to consider a change in non-conforming use at 424 North Sea Road, North Sea. We had a work session on this. So this is that little corner triangle by Major's Path and North Sea Road. That is, I don't know, it was a lawnmower place. They want to make it a sign place.
Resolution 44246, notice of public hearing to consider the designation of a historic district in the hamlet of Bridgehampton to be known as the Bridgehampton Bull's Head Main Street Historic District. We've been on this one for a number of years now.
Yeah, well, I certainly will be a co-sponsor
Yeah, I'd
on
like to be
this.
added to that as well.
I was very, you know,
Right. And there's a couple of changes. By the way, our landmarks and historic district boards and the Bridgehampton Civic Association is bringing this forward. In your packets, on page 64, about 2/3 of the way down, we need to make a change of an address. And this is, instead of 2214 Montauk Highway, it should be 2414.
2414?
2-4 instead of.
Right, instead of 2214, that's incorrect.
2414.
2414.
two,
Yeah, it's,
2214 should
Two-thirds
be.
of the way
The
down.
tax lot number is correct, though? Tom?
it is.
So then it will change also in the positioning, right? Because I think they're all based on street.
Right, and that'll be reflected in the,
Yeah.
and by the way, it's tax map number 11.3.
Yeah, the order
yeah,
of Pierce's tax map number.
Is that
Numerically,
what
it's
the
still-
I thought
order
there was
is?
another
Yeah.
one.
think it's
This
this
is
one here.
tax map number.
Yeah,
Two, two.
No, no, here.
Is that 2214?
Those are all.
This was mine. That's where they
Tommy
are.
John, it's page 64, right, not the one on 65. There's
Say that
two-
again?
There's 2214 on page 64.
I see that.
It's a different tax map.
And it's a
number.
different,
Yeah.
So it's the one on page
different tax
64.
map
that-
number.
So the page 65 one is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 2214, which tax lot number 985-121 is correct.
So then all of these properties.
2214, so this
Yeah,
one's,
oh, yeah, they'll all get.
It's correct.
right, the other 2214 is
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
All right.
So kudos to Ed Wisnowski and the others for working on this, and with the Pam Harwood and the Civic. I know originally the Civic, well, then the CAC wanted a much bigger district, and so they have come to an agreement on the size of the Bridgehampton Historic District.
I just want to make sure that the property owners who would be affected are cognizant of this.
And what it entails.
Are we doing a mailing to
Um,
these properties?
Good, Supervisor, I just want to make one other change here on page 69, while it's in my hand. It's the same change instead
Yeah.
of,
I guess we have it twice, the list twice.
oh, here it is, right. Instead of 2214, this one should be 2414. It's the same property on a.
2414.
It should be changed to 2414. This will be reflected in the resolutions that we get at public
This is on
hearing.
page 70?
On page 69.
69,
69?
about
Bad.
1/3 of the way down.
Yeah.
So
2214 will be changed to 2414.
2414.
In the last
So your question
resolve-
about
No,
notice
saying In
requirement.
the last resolve clause, it says that the clerk will be mailing the notice of this resolution to each of the property owners.
Say that again? Jimmy says it in here?
Yeah, in the last resolve clause, it mentions that there'll be, the notice of the public hearing will be published, and there'll also be a mail a copy of this resolution and notice to the property, to the owners of the properties within the proposed,
So are we giving ample time then for them
by
to get
certified
it?
mail.
Certified mail and notice and,
So this,
Yeah, it's a month away, so I mean, they should get this mailed
the
out.
hearing date is set for October 24th. Yeah, we should be able to.
Right.
Sunday, you'll be able to do that, right?
We're gonna do it as soon as this is adopted and we're directed to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Kelly Doyle in my office is working
I
with Julie
can't
Green
control
on
the
this.
mail after that.
no, I think he's just asking you if it's enough time for your office to prepare and mail all of this.
We're already working on it.
Oh, there you go.
Actually, we're working with Kelly.
Sunny's on top.
Joey's on top. Sundays always there.
Okay, that's.
But the other
that's fine.
issue
So
is that
assuming
people that might not respond, and also people who may respond negatively, we need to anticipate that. So I would envision this might,
People are gonna have a lot of questions.
There's
Well,
gonna
it's
be-
good that we have it certified mail, so we know.
That's why we have
if somebody
hearings.
received it or not.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
important.
I would like to co-sponsor too, Tom John. It's
Okay, yeah.
Important. I mean, historically, these things actually help.
Historic districts tend to increase property
My
values, but
experience
people
is
get
over the years.
concerned that they won't be able to do basic things to their properties.
Yeah.
I have, as Jim, you're aware, and other members who've been on this board
Right.
for the time that I have been, it's just been something I've been looking to do for like the last 8 years, to establish a historic district in Bridgehampton, because it's really, of all the places that have a character from the earliest points of development, of colonial development, not indigenous. This is like, there's no place that stands out more than this that isn't protected by a historic district.
Right.
If you look at Southampton Village, there's a historic district, East Hampton, historic district, Quogue, historic district, Sag Harbor, historic district. All the places like Bridgehampton have historic districts. And it's just sort of surprised me that they could be subject to development patterns that could undermine the integrity of the area and really compromise. We've been lucky so far, not just lucky, we have a good ARB, but they're vulnerable. And I think and there have been some developments within that zone that, maybe are not compatible with the historic designation. So I think it's really important that this gets put in place. But I do think we have to make sure that the property owners understand what we're trying to achieve and why we're trying to achieve it, and that we're not being too onerous in our regulations that will make it difficult for them to do basic improvements to their properties, so.
well, we're also subject to state law in that respect as well, so
But I
I think it
do,
actually helps that project because of that.
I do appreciate the work that Julie Green's been doing on this, and Ed Wisnowski as well, so
And Julie Green, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Kelly. She's been
And
very
Kelly,
helpful.
yeah.
It should be noted that we've lost a number of historic homes in the hamlet of Bridgehampton that are in the outlying farm field areas that folks have purchased, knocked down, and put up,
Big
their own
mansions.
version of where they want to live. And so, for the folks in Bridgehampton that really wanted this to be much, much bigger, I understand their point, but to put a historic district over all of the homes in that area, that might have been a bit onerous or much for what we're doing. So this is a good first step.
In my experience, it's good to be narrowly focused if you can, as much as possible.
Mhm.
Other municipalities that I worked with, I think it's a
Yeah.
better way to proceed.
And districts can grow.
Yeah.
Rick,
All right,
Rick,
so
did
John,
you ask to be a sponsor?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
is there anybody, you're not sponsoring? Right, but I think four of us
Right now,
are.
it's just Tony, John.
No, I'm liaison to the.
So I think the four of us closest to you all want to co-sponsor this resolution.
Yes, I
I
do.
didn't write the resolution, so I'm just adding it.
All right, and John, you have the next?
Town Board Resolution ID 44279, road review application for 67 Laurel LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map, as indicated in the resolution. Situate at Sag Harbor is accepted.
44292, resolution to accept and file a notice of completion of final environmental impact statement, FEIS, in connection with the NRP Group Zone Change application entitled The Preserve at South Country Road, Quiot. So, this is that what originally was like 180 units, and then we considered it 104. I have to check into exactly where the planning department is looking at this.
We're at 78.
79 plus
No, we're-
one.
We're at 78 plus one.
I thought
I
we were
just
at
confirmed that yesterday.
78 plus one.
78 units and one manager's.
And one manager suite. Okay.
And I think frankly, that's been quite a haul, and quite a whittling down of what was originally proposed. This also includes some CPF properties potentially that we could use. They're also offering to be able to provide hookup to the trailer park that's there, the mobile home park, although apparently they can't reach an agreement, but they're gonna set it up in a way that will
They
happen.
could expand. So
Yeah.
it's basically 6 units an acre. But wait, so the original number was based on 17 acres times 6. So now you're saying at this density of 79
78
units,
plus one.
78 plus 1, and then we're gonna take 6 units an acre and figure out how many acres are needed to make this happen. And so there might be some community open space
Mhm.
around it. Okay, and that CPF could come in and acquire some buffers and parkland.
Correct.
Okay. And I appreciate, John, all the work you put into this to try to get the community to, I don't know, embrace it, but maybe not fight
Come
it.
with- yeah, no, pitchfork.
We'll find out.
Well, it's, and thank you, but it's the whole board and what we've been, trying to reduce the density, be responsive to the community, and I think this is a good solution. It's more than half a reduction, and the total is originally proposed, so I think that's a good thing. I know there are concerns about discharge to Moneybog Bay, because it's emerges, because it's a 303D property, or 303D listed water body. But in the way this is working, there actually should be a reduction in contribution. I would really urge the owner of the mobile home park to work with the applicant to bring those things together, because that would certainly be a big win environmentally to do that, so.
So I have one.
That would be a good thing. I think it should be noted that we heard from many people in the area who really want places to live. And so, they spoke in favor of this particular application. So,
So I
that's
have-
what we're doing.
I have
I think.
one more resolution to add to the packet. It's 44289. It appoints Elizabeth Dorgan to senior office assistant position in municipal works. So, Son, do you have that?
I do.
Okay, so we'll add that. Does anybody have any other questions on the agenda? All right, Son, you're good to publish
Thank you.
with the, whatever the Scribner's type of changes.
We're gonna make all the changes and corrections and
Yeah.
get it up, available to the public online so they can join in and see what's going on.
So let's move on to some updates. I don't remember to what degree I updated you on the situation. I think I feel like I already did about the state of emergency. Did we talk about this in work session from last week with, it was, I think, Thursday morning that I had gotten a call from the highway superintendent that there was a bad breach on Dune Road. I immediately reached out to the county for assistance at the request of the highway superintendent, and also the chief engineer was already on site. I think that the highway superintendent, Charlie McCardle, had reached out to county already, but they were waiting on approval to be able to mobilize equipment through the county executive. I talked with Ryan Murphy, our emergency management coordinator, and I talked with Chief Kiernan, and very quickly a team assembled with lots of, from the Bay Constables, from, Highway Department, Town Police, other agencies, including the county DPW, County Fres, and very quickly, sand was, we declared a local state of emergency. Sand started being brought in. There was what had happened, basically, a river was sort of forming from the ocean to the bay, just to the west of Tiana Beach, next to Sandbar Beach. Well, 2 over from Sandbar Beach, where there's a home on pilings, and the water was rushing next to it and beginning to cut through. I don't know that it was a breach. I would say it was pre-breach conditions. Pre-breach, if we didn't do something, it likely would have breached, particularly with the worst. This was the beginning of Hurricane Lee. It really, it was going to get worse over the next few high tides. So a lot of sand was mobilized, pushed into place. That dune got secured. They worked not only that day, but the next day. And, I was there for all the high tide, except for one, cycles. On Rosh Hashanah evening, I wasn't there for high tide that night, but I was in communication with the police chief. The area to the east of Dune Road by the commercial marina, over the course of this Hurricane Lee became of significant concern. And, I went there, all those high tide cycles to monitor it. And we did move some sand in place. We stockpiled sand in that area right next to the commercial marina for fear that, with the 14-foot waves that were forecast, that we could have a very bad situation. That area remains very, very vulnerable if we're going to have another coastal event. Energetic event like we just saw. And, eventually FIMP is going to happen and we'll get lots of sand. It's sort of surprising. We had so much sand a few years ago that was brought in on part of that Woolsey project. Hundreds of thousands of yards got put there, it's gone. Even the dead whale that was buried in that area at one point in the storm started to emerge. Interestingly, one night when I was there with Chris Hansen from the fire marshals, I found a vertebrae of a whale that had washed in with the storm. It wasn't a buried whale, but another whale. It was really sort of extraordinary to see a vertebrae bone 3 feet across. So I was able to get that to the Marine Mammal Research Center. They were interested in it, so they have it now. But I remain concerned about how narrow that dune is. It's very, very vulnerable. We have some stockpiles of sand. If we have a storm forecast, we could potentially buttress it using Dune Road, maybe leaving a single lane there for vehicles to pass. I have to say, during this event, we were concerned with, Oakland's was having a big wedding. So the chief and I were in communication trying to figure out, should we cancel? Should we tell Oakland's to cancel? We didn't know exactly how bad it would be. We knew that would be very inconvenient for them. So we worked out a number of contingency plans, including parking the buses in a place that they wouldn't be affected by the flooding. Even water evacuation plans where we could be able to go in there by boat and remove people if we had to. It turned out to be okay. The dune, we didn't lose the dune. The wedding went off successfully. But I just want to thank Chief Kiernan for all his hard work and his team, and County Executive and DPW for their work, and Charlie McCardle, our Highway Superintendent, and his people for their work. The fire marshals, Ryan Murphy, and public safety, and all of their work. It's nice to know when we have an emergency that everybody drops everything and comes together and does what we need to do to protect people's safety and property. And we dodged the bullet in a way with this storm. Hurricane Lee pushed off to the east. We did see some coastal erosion, but it could have been much worse. It was a massive storm. But if anybody has any questions about the storm response, this state of emergency has been lifted, and
I have a question about
hopefully it's the last one of my administration.
I have a question about the overwash. There you go. In that particular area, there is a structure that's right in the dune line, and it's pretty close to the ocean. And I don't want to point any fingers or blame, but can the town compel that owner to move the structure back so the dune can re-establish itself, and we won't have any, to the same degree, we won't have any overwash in that particular location?
So, maybe Jim can answer this, but under FIMP, there's a significant beach going in front of that property. And so that property won't be so vulnerable anymore. I would behoove that property owner to move that structure back and put it in line with the others. The dune line sort of runs straight through where that property is.
Yeah.
Have you given any thought to that in terms of how it's affected by FIMP?
And we can reach out, we did actually survey the entire property, whole FIMP area from Quogue to the Shinnecock Inlet with engineers from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and folks in the DEC a few months ago, and they did notice that, and even our beach that's right there too is just a severe drop off at the time.
Right.
I mean, it changes.
And not just this location. I'm sure there are other structures that are
yeah. I mean, this was-
pre-existing structures that are in the
If you
dune line.
recall, that property we're talking about, I believe, is in a similar location to where we had another property where the town did take down the structure. I mean, it had fire damage. This building is not in good condition. The other one was in much worse condition, and we took that down. We ended up in a federal lawsuit. We won it, but we can reach out to this owner too, and he's actually been pretty involved with the FIM process, and so we can talk to him about what his plans are with this building, because I agree with you. It should be moved or
And other structures too. I mean,
Sure.
along the whole stretch, if there's a structure that's in the dune lines that's not allowing the dunes to repair themselves and build up, it could be a
Right.
Well,
bad
this is
situation.
gonna be an never-ending issue.
Yeah.
Let's just be straight about it, that as we are seeing real sea level rise, and we're seeing this in actual measurable increments, this is going to be something that we're gonna have to deal with, and I know Kevin McAllister is constantly talking about moving houses back,
Yeah,
but, he's not wrong about that.
No.
And it's not just, I know FIMP has parts of that agreement, at least my
Exactly.
understanding with the presentation they gave us, that they were gonna be able to provide, grant money for homeowners to lift their properties on the bay side.
That's like-
I don't know how that applies to
Well,
the
this one's
ocean
already
side.
elevated. This structure's elevated.
So moving things back is actually going to be the process going forward in the next 20 to 40 years.
Yeah.
Not in anticipation as we start to
Well,
experience.
the sand
this
that was
real
pushed
waves.
behind this house and maybe some in front isn't gonna last. It's gonna get washed away. It's loose sand. One storm will probably wash it right away.
Well,
So-
that storm came within 500 miles of us, let's put that in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And had it not,
Yeah.
we'd be having a different conversation.
Today is the anniversary of the hurricane of 1938. It was a Category 3 traveling at 55 miles an hour. In quadrants 1 and 4, the winds here were at 180 miles an hour.
But
We
actually,
get
when
them.
it struck, it was hurricane Category 1, I believe, when it actually made landfall.
38?
Yeah.
3,
38.
155 miles an hour.
How many breaches did it
Was it
cause?
Category 3? I don't think it hit.
One real big one.
In Boston,
It's
the
caused
wind speed
tremendous damage.
instrument blew off after reading 168.
Yeah.
After it blew off the building.
Just on the FIM process. we're
675 people died.
Close to finishing our surveys. They all look good so far, the ones we've seen. The surveys have been doing a good job. Gil Anderson's been helping on the managing of that. He's been doing a great job. And so on to our next step will be the appraisal process. And I've been speaking with the appraisers. Again, Kelly Doyle in my office has been working real hard on that too. So we're moving along on that. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from folks in this particular area, Tiana Beach area. They're very enthusiastic about the program. I think they realize the benefits of this program. So
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody on the mobilization on that. The communication too was excellent. All departments checked in, we all got photographs, we were all there. But especially the highway department, because they kind of preempted everything. They were bringing sand on site very early and waiting for the go-ahead, and, they really did a great job. They basically filled in that dune, where it was missing to get it level with the rest of the dunes in the area. There's actually a dune on the, ocean side of that home right now, so they did a terrific job, so thank you to Charlie McCardle and Mark Breger.
Yeah, and I should point out that I sat on the Superstorm Sandy task force for the legislature, and it's a lot of those things that evolved out of that document, as how to deal with, how to deal with debris, how to deal with all those kinds of things, and I was really heartened to see that a lot of it had already been encompassed in our process, and that's a real positive thing, and it was very well handled by all and well guided. And I agree with you, Rick.
All right.
And it's a good document, I'll say also, not because I sat on the task force, but because it was really well thought out, well done. The right people made contributions to it, and it's a great guide for municipalities up and down, or east and west on the South Shore, because we're a coastal community, will continue to experience this in increasingly bigger numbers and
Yeah, I think the
more
biggest
impact.
part of that was the communication, getting to people in real time and making sure that everybody's where they were supposed to be, and I
Yeah.
think it worked out great.
Yeah.
So tell me, John, I stand corrected. It was Category 3 when it hit. I thought it dropped down before it hit.
Hurricane Bob was one.
Well,
Gloria.
There's only one Bob.
Huh?
What was Gloria?
Was it?
What was
Gloria,
in
yeah.
85?
That's bad.
Only one.
I don't remember.
I
I mean,
my
I don't
father
know
was in
if
the, my
we
father was in
haven't
the phone company. I
experienced
remember
the
his shirt,
three.
Gloria Warrior.
We had,
You know, on Hurricane-
my brother's
Hurricane-
wedding was that weekend.
Hurricane Bob, I think these were largely Category 1 hurricanes. So, when was the last time we got a Cat 3? Probably, that was it, 38.
I don't remember. Hurricane Donna brought a lot of flooding. That was 1961. but-
Superstorm Sandy wasn't even technically a
Nope.
hurricane when it hit, and look at all the damage it caused. It was a tropical storm.
Yeah, just pushed a lot of water ahead of it.
All right, so,
Gloria was a 4.
Gloria was.
Glorious 4?
Was
I don't know if it was a
Category-
4 when it hit, but it was a
It might have been a 4 out in the ocean, yeah, when it hit Long, you have to look at when it hit Long Island, because they drop down when they get here.
Well, and that's the other thing, you're gonna, continue to see these record temperatures in water, and that adds energy to these storms. And so they're gonna be stronger and closer.
All
On
right,
that happy note,
On that happy note, no, I mean, we have to be mindful, obviously, of how vulnerable we are.
yes. And we're kind of a barometer for the rest of the country, and particularly,
Is
Long
that
Island
a-
is listed as one of those, critical areas, because we're surrounded by water essentially, but any coastal community is seeing this.
We're kind of a barometer, a pun intended?
Yes.
All right. All right, so some of you were with me yesterday at the ribbon cutting for Elliston Park. I think most of you, right? So it was very nice. So if you haven't gone to see the improvements, people should go and visit. It's beautiful, beautiful lake there. They call it Big Fresh Pond, but it feels more like a lake than a pond. It's a very big water body. And it's great public access there, and ADA accessible, so even if you're in a wheelchair or walker, it's very easy to visit this park. And the Parks Department, Kristen Doulos was there with a number of parks folks, including Daryl, who managed this capital project. Jacqueline Fenlon was there, our CPF program manager. A number of the folks who use this park on a regular basis were there, and people were very, very happy with the work that got done at Elliston Park. Yeah, also, one of the Elliston family members was there too, who was also pleased to see the town's investment into this park that his relatives had donated. I guess Emma Rose Elliston years ago. So it was a major gift to the town at that point. I don't remember how long ago it was, but it's really a very, really nice, peaceful place to visit. Anybody else who was there, or anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, John would appreciate, so water quality money went to some of the drainage issues there. And they really did, they almost made a natural rock bottom, like,
Swell.
wait for the water to come down and not go into the lake. They
Yeah,
did a
well
great
done.
job, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, I do appreciate that. Thank you, Rick.
A bioswale, I think they call it, right? Is that what it is?
No.
No,
They
no,
put in a
it
rain
was-
garden.
It was
It's
a duct
rain
to a
garden,
rain
might be
garden.
closer, yeah.
Okay. It'll be nice as plants start to grow in there too.
And they will.
So right here, yesterday was the LIPA Commissioners meeting, the hearing on looking at the LIPA model, which is a public utility managed by a private utility, administered by a private utility, about looking at other structures that would provide more public accountability. And Tommy John spoke at that, Richard Fleming spoke, John spoke, and I attended, I did not speak. We had Len Arthur spoke, and Mike from Jewel Asset spoke. So there was a number of people who spoke, and I think that was the last of the hearings, right, that they're holding. And then they're gonna file a report. So,
Well, they issued a draft report, which we were there to comment on. And the next step is to see about reforming LIPA, if that's potentially possible, and so looking at some mechanisms to do that. Also, I think what was stressed yesterday, most importantly, is that each individual community and municipalities has some different needs when it comes to energy, and the Power Authority in particular. And it's important, they're looking at a method to allow more input from the municipalities rather than being dictated to. We only represent about 2% of the total income to LIPA as far as customer base. And sometimes I think municipalities like us feel that we don't always get the attention that we need. That LIPA is a unique thing. There's nothing like it in the country. And I think everyone realizes that in order to go forward with our energy goals and the things that municipalities need to do and the mandates, that it's important to revise, to carefully look at a better way to administer power and repair the grid, which is right now almost at capacity. Things like that, where local municipalities have input. I think that's important to stress. I thought it was a good meeting. This is the second one that was here. We invited the commission last time, and they came here to finish up, so.
This was a legislative committee, so you
Committee,
had
yep.
senators, New York State senators and assembly people.
And a wide breadth of people, I mean, from the city out to here, and I think it's important to, in the entire LIPA range, I think it was important. And
Assemblyman
What they're
Gill-
considering is to actually create it into a municipal corporation of sorts. Right now, it's a private company that hires a third-party company to maintain the grid and to do the upkeep. That's the PSIG component to it. And so what John's talking about is that the trustees of the LIPA board are actually appointed in Albany. Two from the Speaker of the Assembly, or Speaker of the Senate, and two from the Assembly, Speaker of the Assembly, pro tempore of the Senate, and 4 from the Governor, which none of them are from Long Island. So we're looking to get some kind of representation.
Nancy Goroff is, but that's.
Well, I meant
You mean
the head of the Senate, head of the
Senate,
Assembly, and
not
the
the
Governor are
trustees.
not from
Yeah.
Long Island, which doesn't make them bad people, but they're just not from the coverage area, and they're actually choosing the trustees. So, we were implying that they would have more local appointing power of the trustees of the new configuration. It still has to get through the legislature and signed by the governor in the next session, so there's a ways to go on it from here. Another point that we made was the protection of the collective bargaining rights of the workers who work for PSEG and LIPA. We own the vehicles, we own the capital, it's just the management structure that is going to be presumably changed.
Yeah, and there's a sort of a public misunderstanding, at least from the labor side of things, that the goal of the commission is to make sure that the union members are retained, that their pensions and income are protected, and I think that's an important point to make, because, I agree, I don't think a group of people should suffer because, there's a change made in the commission in its draft, and all meetings has assured everyone that is simply not the case, and that won't be the case, and I'm sure it wouldn't fly if it was the case, frankly, but that's an important issue. To me, having some local representation, particularly with the increasingly complex nature of energy storage and distribution, and renewable energy use, and the growing technology on that, I think they impact us locally. And I think that's important, that we have the ability to affect what that power authority, whatever model it comes out as, that we're able to have a say in how that goes. I think that's important.
All right. There also were a number of questions John fielded about CCA, that the committee was very not concerned, they were just very interested, because we're the first electric CCA on Long Island. And they just wanted to better understand how that worked, and John answered a number of their questions, so did Lynn, and so did Mike from Jewel. But they seemed very interested in seeing that program grow, which was nice to hear. All right, the last thing.
Well, just one to that point. I mean, one of the points I wanted to make yesterday was that there's kind of this competitive atmosphere or nature between the utility, the power authority, and the municipalities in some way. They create programs and opportunities for for cost savings and things like that, but in many ways, it's very difficult for a municipality such as ourselves to try to, implement CCA. It's taken years, and it doesn't need to be that way. I think a well-run utility, a well-run authority, and a well-run municipality can work really well together to accomplish some pretty significant things, which ultimately, hopefully, resolve that or result in great savings to people who of low and moderate income, and particularly and people on fixed income, which a lot of people west of us don't understand, that the Hamptons is not just all people of wealth. It's working people who struggle every day with electric bills that are the fourth highest in the nation. And, hopefully we can get to a point where we can help our residents, all our residents, not just a few.
Well said. All right, lastly, there's 4 o'clock today. There is the East, tomorrow? Oh, sorry, thank you. 4 o'clock tomorrow. It's the East End Fund for Children ceremony. Cinderella has been doing this campaign for these 7 local charities that support children. And they had a kickoff event, and now this is, I guess, they've added all the money up, and I guess we got to find out how well it was. So that's going to be at in Bridgehampton behind Cinderella. In Bridgehampton, there's a lawn area back there, and that's where they've been doing these events. So 4 o'clock tomorrow, and you are all invited. And this weekend is San Gennaro, but it's been moved, right? Right?
So I'll play weatherman for a minute here.
Yeah.
So the last 2 days of summer, today and tomorrow, going to be beautiful. This weekend, we're expecting a nor'easter. So unfortunately, the San Gennaro feast has been postponed. We don't have a date yet because there's a lot of moving parts. It's very difficult. We work with the Parks Department, the Highway Department, and the Safety Department, trying to make sure that our vendors and patrons and are safe. When the winds go above 30 miles an hour, we can no longer open a showmobile or really count on everyone, having a safe environment. So working with everybody, and thank you to everybody that works with us from the town, that we will be looking for a date, most likely in mid to late October.
That nor'easter.
100% chance of rain.
How about
They
it?
don't say that.
The wind.
They don't usually say that, I know. Usually
Nor'easters
it's
are a
98.
problem, particularly for that area that I was speaking of earlier. So that's something I'm going to have
That's
to
too
watch
bad.
very carefully.
Yeah, I want to thank Ryan Murphy, because if we all have that new weather app that gives us hour by hour what we can expect, and it's not looking good for the weekend.
A lot of rain. Yeah, a lot of
And
rain,
wind.
but I guess a lot of wind, huh?
22 miles.
All
Dust
right.
over 40.
Yeah, 40 mile per hour gusts and 2 to 3 inches of rain with it, so.
All right, thank you, Rick, for the weather report.
And that's it.
So it's Sydney traffic, or
Nope.
what do you got?
Good.
And our trees still have leaves on them, so 40 miles an hour is a
Yeah,
big
it's a
deal.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zelia,
Especially with saturated ground.
Yeah.
Not
and we're still, traffic-wise, and we're still doing the cones at Canoe Place.
When does that end?
We don't have an end date yet that I'm aware of. And I'm looking as I do the budget, because it's expensive to set up the cones and to police it. So I'm trying to figure out how to account for that in the budget. And what they had done in Watermill at Superintendent McCardle's sort of pilot program, when they had kind of a second lane off of Little Cobb Road through Watermill and blinking the light in Watermill and shutting off traffic from, was it Mill Farm or Mill Pond Road? That seems to have really helped. People were saying it really is an improvement. So I'm trying to figure out if I can put some money in the budget to allow for the staffing to continue. It's a little frustrating because neither one of those places are our roads. One is a county road and one is a state road, and ultimately, why are we paying to improve traffic flow on roads that aren't ours, but still trying to figure out what we can manage to do financially. John, did you have anything?
Just did.
Just did. And Tommy John?
Not at this time.
All right, so,
When we have some interviewees.
Still just a
we're about
8:45
half
though,
hour
so we're
over.
going good on time.
all right, so we do have items for executive session, and quite a few. So we've got personnel matters, we have confidential legal advice, we have acquisitions. Oh, I got just one other quick note. I did attend, I forgot to mention, Rick was there too. I did attend the Hampton Bay Civic the other night, I want to say Monday night. Lost my glasses. They had asked me to come and just talk about Hampton Bays, some of the things going on in Hampton Bays, whether it's battery energy storage concerns or downtown sewers or zoning, Bel Air, you know, all the usual things. So I did speak for, I want to say about an hour.
They went late.
I went late, and then I answered questions for at least another half an hour. They did also, I mean, I think it went well. CTV filmed it, if anybody's interested. They did hold their election, so there are changes to the president and vice president over at the Hampton Bay Civic. So Elizabeth Hook is now the president there, and Ray D'Angelo is now the vice president of the Civic. So just letting everybody know, and wish them well, and we will, I'll make a motion at this point to go into executive session
Second.
on the items I
I
mentioned.
did have one item.
To exec?
Executive session. I wrote it on there was a request to do something for a few minutes.
Contracts as well. So we have contracts, personnel, confidential, legal advice, and acquisitions. So I make a motion to go into executive session on those items.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we are adjourned for all other purposes, and we'll go into executive session. It's only 8 in the morning. No, it's noon. Do we want to take